Imagine two people who both start their careers at 22 years old. They work equally hard. They earn almost the same salary. They both save money. Yet by the time they're 40, one of them is financially free, while the other is still struggling to keep up with rising living costs. How is that possible? For years, millennials were told they were the unluckiest generation in modern history. They graduated into the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. They watched housing prices explode beyond reach. They carried record levels of student debt. And just when many finally started getting ahead, a global pandemic changed everything again. But something surprising is happening. A younger generation, Generation Z, may actually have a chance to build more wealth than millennials ever could. That sounds almost impossible. After all, Gen Z faces expensive housing, inflation, economic uncertainty, and an AI revolution that many fear will eliminate millions of jobs. So why are some economists, investors, and business leaders quietly suggesting that Gen Z could become one of the wealthiest generations in history? The answer has almost nothing to do with working harder, and everything to do with timing. Because while millennials entered a world that was changing, Gen Z was born into it, and that difference may change everything. Before we continue, let's make one thing clear. This isn't a competition between generations. Every generation inherits different opportunities and different challenges. Many millennials have built incredible businesses, successful careers, and significant wealth. Likewise, many members of Gen Z continue facing financial hardship. There are no guarantees. But when we zoom out and look at the larger economic picture, some fascinating trends begin to appear. And understanding those trends could help anyone, regardless of age, make better financial decisions. So, let's begin with the generation that many economists describe as one of the most financially challenged in decades. The Millennial Challenge. Imagine graduating from university after years of studying. You're excited. You're ambitious. You're finally ready to begin your career. Then suddenly, the global economy collapses. Companies stop hiring. Businesses close. Unemployment rises. That was the reality for millions of millennials during the 2008 global financial crisis. Instead of entering a growing economy, many entered one of the weakest job markets in generations. Finding stable employment became incredibly difficult. Many accepted lower-paying jobs simply to gain experience. Some delayed buying homes. Others postponed starting families. Many watched years of financial progress disappear before their careers had even begun. Economists sometimes refer to this as scarring. Not emotional scarring, but economic scarring. Research has shown that graduating during a recession can reduce lifetime earnings because early career opportunities often influence promotions, salary growth, and future career paths. For many millennials, their financial race started several steps behind the starting line. But the challenges didn't stop there. While incomes grew slowly, housing prices accelerated. In many major cities around the world, buying a home became dramatically more expensive than it had been for previous generations. A larger share of income went toward rent. Saving for a down payment became increasingly difficult. At the same time, student debt continued rising. Many graduates entered adulthood already carrying large financial obligations before earning their first full-time paycheck. Then came another surprise. Interest rates remained historically low for years, helping fuel rising asset prices. Great news if you already owned investments. Less helpful if you were still trying to buy your first home or build your first investment portfolio. In many ways, millennials spent years trying to catch up with an economy that kept moving further ahead. And then, just as many finally reached greater financial stability, 2020 arrived. The pandemic reshaped economies around the world. Businesses closed. Entire industries paused almost overnight. Millions of workers experienced uncertainty unlike anything seen in decades. Once again, many millennials found themselves navigating another historic economic event. After nearly 15 years of financial disruption, it's easy to understand why many people began describing millennials as one of the most economically unlucky generations in modern history. But while one generation struggled through repeated disruptions, another generation was quietly growing up inside an entirely different world. Generation Z enters a different economy. Generation Z doesn't remember a world before smartphones. They've never known life without high-speed internet, streaming, online banking, digital payments, cloud computing, artificial intelligence. These weren't revolutionary inventions arriving during adulthood. They were simply normal, And that changes how people think. Millennials learn technology. Gen Z grew up speaking it almost like a first language. That difference may sound small, but economically, it could be enormous. Today's young adults can learn programming from free online courses, launch an online business with almost no upfront investment, sell digital products worldwide, build personal brands through content creation, earn freelance income from clients on the other side of the planet. Only 20 years ago, many of these opportunities simply didn't exist. Today, a teenager with a laptop can build an audience larger than traditional media companies once had. A small online business can reach millions of customers without ever opening a physical store. The barriers to entrepreneurship have fallen dramatically, and that's changing the way wealth is created. Of course, that doesn't mean success has become easy. Competition is also greater than ever. Millions of creators compete for attention. Businesses compete globally. Artificial intelligence is reshaping entire industries faster than most people expected. Technology creates opportunities, but it also creates disruption, which raises an important question. If Gen Z has access to more powerful tools than any generation before, will those tools actually make them richer? Or will increasing competition cancel out those advantages? Because the biggest reason some experts believe Gen Z could outperform millennials has nothing to do with social media, or smartphones, or even artificial intelligence. It comes down to something much more powerful. One simple habit that can quietly transform wealth over decades. And that's exactly where we're heading next. The biggest advantage isn't AI, it's time. Here's the secret that many people overlook. The greatest financial advantage Gen Z has isn't artificial intelligence. It isn't social media. And it isn't cryptocurrency. It's time. Imagine two investors. One starts investing at age 22. The other waits until age 32. Both invest exactly the same amount every month. Both earn the same average investment return. The only difference is when they begin. Over decades, that 10-year head start can create an enormous difference because every year's returns begin earning returns of their own. That's the quiet power behind long-term investing. Many members of Gen Z are learning this lesson much earlier than previous generations. Financial education is no longer limited to expensive books or university classrooms. Today, anyone with an internet connection can learn about investing, budgeting, index funds, entrepreneurship, and personal finance from thousands of free resources. Of course, not every piece of online advice is accurate, but access to financial knowledge has never been greater. For those willing to learn carefully and verify information, the barrier to understanding money has become much lower than it was 20 years ago. The rise of the creator economy. Now consider something else that barely existed when millennials entered adulthood. The creator economy. Years ago, building a business usually required significant capital. You often needed office space, employees, inventory, or expensive advertising. Today, someone can launch a business with little more than a laptop, internet access, and a valuable skill. A graphic designer can work with clients across the world. A programmer can build software from home. A teacher can create online courses. A writer can publish newsletters. A musician can reach millions without a record label. A small YouTube channel can eventually become a global business. Income is no longer tied only to where someone lives. For many people, the internet has expanded the size of the marketplace itself. That doesn't mean success is guaranteed. Far from it. Competition has also become global. Millions of creators compete for attention every day. Building an audience still requires consistency, patience, and genuine value. But the opportunity itself is far larger than it once was. Artificial intelligence changes the rules. Then there's artificial intelligence. Some people see AI as a threat. Others see it as the greatest economic opportunity of the century. The reality is probably somewhere in between. AI is already helping people write code, design products, analyze data, create videos, automate repetitive tasks, and build businesses faster than ever before. For individuals who learn how to work alongside these tools, productivity can increase dramatically. But AI will also reshape many industries. Some jobs will evolve, some tasks will become automated, and entirely new careers may emerge that barely exist today. History suggests that technological revolutions rarely eliminate all work. Instead, they tend to replace certain jobs while creating new ones. The challenge for Gen Z isn't simply learning one profession, it's developing the ability to keep learning as technology continues changing. In the future, adaptability may become one of the most valuable financial skills anyone can possess. But Gen Z still faces serious risks. At this point, you might be wondering, if Gen Z has all these advantages, why isn't everyone becoming wealthy? Because opportunities don't eliminate challenges. Housing remains expensive in many cities. Inflation continues affecting household budgets. Economic uncertainty hasn't disappeared. Student debt still affects millions of young adults. Artificial intelligence may disrupt industries faster than many workers can adapt. And perhaps the biggest challenge of all, distraction. Never before has an entire generation lived inside an economy competing constantly for its attention. Every notification, every short video, every trending topic, every viral headline competes for the same limited resource, focus. And focus has become an economic advantage. People who consistently invest in learning valuable skills may benefit over time. Those constantly chasing every new trend may struggle to build lasting expertise. Technology offers incredible opportunities, but only if people learn to control it, instead of letting it control them. So, will Gen Z actually become richer? Here's the truth. Nobody knows. Economic forecasts change. Markets surprise us. Technology evolves. Unexpected events reshape entire industries. History reminds us that every generation experiences moments nobody could predict. The goal isn't to declare that Gen Z will definitely become richer than millennials. The goal is to understand why some experts believe the possibility exists. Generation Z has access to tools, knowledge, technology, global markets, and investment opportunities that previous generations could barely imagine. Whether those advantages translate into greater wealth depends largely on how they're used. Technology alone doesn't create wealth. Decisions do. The real lesson. Perhaps the biggest lesson from this discussion isn't about millennials or Gen Z at all. It's about recognizing that every generation faces different economic conditions. Some inherit stronger economies. Others inherit major crises. But one principle has remained remarkably consistent throughout history. People who continuously learn, adapt to change, invest in valuable skills, make thoughtful financial decisions, and remain patient over long periods, often place themselves in a stronger position than those who simply react to every headline. No generation controls the economy, but every individual can influence how they prepare for it. And in an increasingly fast-changing world, that mindset may become one of the greatest financial advantages anyone can have. Closing. So, do you believe Gen Z is on track to become wealthier than millennials? Or do you think rising living costs, automation, and economic uncertainty will make that much harder than many expect? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoyed this video and want more evidence-based breakdowns on money, investing, economics, and the future of finance, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks for watching. And remember, the future isn't built by predicting every change. It's built by preparing for it.